Alright class, before we get started with the demonstration, I just want to go over some basic information about prepping, getting yourself ready for a drawing session. This is a tablet. Yours might be smaller. This is 18 by 24. But one of the problems that students run into, and of course instructors, because it impacts your presentation, the quality of your drawings, is to take a sheet out. The best way to do it is to lay it flat. It can be on the floor or it can be on a table like I'm doing now. And you just take the sheet, put one over, and just slowly pull it out this way. And you'll get a nice clean cut every time. Okay? So you don't want to just pull out this way, just pick it up from its toe and just pull in this direction slowly. Okay? Now I'm going to take a few out. I can do a couple at a time, and that's fine. Same thing. Alright, now we're ready to go. I'm going to use a number 2 pencil. I've got my sharpener here. You don't really need an eraser. The type of drawing that we're doing is not going to require an eraser. Okay, so I've got sheets of paper attached to my drawing board here, and it's important to draw on a surface that's as upright as possible. Okay, because when you look, well, even if you're drawing from a photograph or from actual things, they are upright. And so when you draw on a flat surface, you're misled by the distance from top to bottom. Okay, it's hard to judge. So what I've got here, you don't need an easel. I've got 2 chairs. I'm sitting in one and resting my board on the back of the other. There's a real simple way to get this upright. Okay. Now remember from the PowerPoint that I sent you, we're doing contour drawing. Contour line drawing. So all we're doing is using line to describe edges and some information that's inside. Alright, now whether you have a 16 by 20 or 18 by 24, it's still big. It's a big format. You're used to 8.5 by 11 because that's the size of writing paper, printing paper. Most textbook sizes fit within that format or smaller. So you're used to seeing that small area with information in it. So now you've got this big area here. So one of the things that I reminded everyone or talked about in the PowerPoint is that with drawing, it's not something that you do with your fingers. It's something that you do with your arm. Your hand simply holds the pencil or the charcoal in place. So it's important, if you remember the kinds of lines that you saw in those examples, they all tend to be real smooth. They might be a little bumpy sometimes, but they're all long and continuous. Right? And when we usually engage drawing in line, the first problem that I see is that students are drawing something. Say they're going to draw a cup, and they start doing this here. Okay, and they end up with what I would call haystack lines. Like this is made out of hay, when the cup itself is made out of ceramic or metal and it's smooth. So in order to start to get out of this habit, is I'd like for you to just start out on the first page here, is just practice making lines that require you to use your arm to make more fluid, continuous lines in different directions, vertical, horizontal, and see if you can't get your arm to do 80% of the work and not your fingers. If you use your fingers, you're going to end up with that haystack quality of line. Alright, so if you move on here, I'm going to give you an example. That was one of the photographs that was included in your PowerPoint. and it seems a little complicated, but we're just starting out. So I'm not concerned that you're drawing and making all the fingers the right size. I'm looking more at the idea of the quality of the line and the idea of getting your arm in the drawing process. Now, if I look at that photograph, it's something to be thinking about. You see how the photograph, even the paper itself, is a horizontal, or what we call a landscape position. And right now, my drawing tablet or my paper is in the vertical, or what we call a portrait position. So all I'm going to do is just turn it sideways. Okay. And now it's in the same format. Okay. So now I can see just how big the hand is. It's big. And you want that kind of room to really move your pencil around because you're using your arm. So I'm going to stop at the lower left-hand corner of the wrist, and I'm going to carefully look at that, and this is an important consideration here. Keep in mind all the time when you're drawing, whether it's from a photograph or whether from its actual things like the hat and the candle on the shelf, is you want to make sure that you're able to see what you're drawing all the time. So if I'm right-handed, I want to be able to look over in this direction to see it clearly, rather than twisting my head and looking at it over there, which is awkward. This way, I can see that, and I can just drop my eyes down, and it makes it real easy to keep looking and drawing. I talked about this in the PowerPoint as well, how you don't want to draw from memory, you want to draw from observation. So you got to keep looking and comparing. So if you're left-handed, well then I would have that paper over on this side. I perhaps maybe move my drawing table, or not my table, my chairs over to this side and look that way, so that once again I'm able to just look up and down real carefully, and it makes it easier to keep looking and drawing at the same time. So let me give you a demo on this here. I'll let you get started. So I'm starting at this edge here, and I'm looking and I'm moving my eyes slowly over the surface, and every time I come to a bump in the surface in my vision, I want to move the pencil accordingly. And I can look a little here, but I really want to get used to using my eyes for this process. Now I'm moving on in this direction, and I'm looking at my finger, and I'm looking as carefully as possible. And now I'm leading into the tip of the other finger, and then the one next to it. Come down a little more, and then I run into the pinky over on this side, and I see it start to widen a little bit, so I'm going to move my pencil accordingly. And now I'm down to the palm, and I notice a little bulge here, and then I'm done. Okay, back to the starting point here. But now I want to come back in and put in some of this other information, like that big crease in the palm. And notice how it wraps around here. And then I'm going to come up a little higher, and right where the fingers attach to the hand, you've also got those other creases. And notice their direction and their length. Sometimes they bulge, and then it wraps around a little. And I'm going to come back to the top and begin to divide my fingers, and looking carefully at where the broader areas, and where it narrows and where it broadens again. Go to the next one. Okay. And then the pinky. come back and do some more stuff inside, looking at some of the creases inside the fingers. Again, be very analytical when you're looking. Now ideally I would want that paper a little closer to me. It's kind of far away, so I could even tape it down right here. Okay. If I had a little taller drawing board, I could put it right there, that way I could see it. But I'm looking at, even down here, I see some lines that describe other creases. There's the one in the wrist here, which curves over. There's one from the palm right here, down, and others in these creases. Look carefully. Don't give me a generic hand. Give me the hand that you're looking at in this photograph. Modest. Here again. Anything that can be described as a line, you want to show that to me. Alright, you see how, and there's probably a few more in here I can begin to look at. You want to start with the ones that are easiest to see, and then you can come back and add the ones that require a little closer inspection. And there you go. Okay. Now, it might be a little misshapen at first, but what we're wanting to do at the very beginning is to get you used to using lines that are long and fluid and not scratchy and hairy. Lines that show confidence, and again, like the lines that we saw on those examples in the PowerPoint. So you've got several photographs, you've got a few hands in that PowerPoint. I've got the baby shoes, I've got the high heel, and those are drawings, or those are images that you can use in your practice of this. And of course, even though you may only have 4 images, you can draw them more than once. You can also draw from light. You can hold your hand, you can't get any closer because that hand is right here, and then you can go about doing the same thing that I did with the photograph image, and now you've got a lot more clarity. That finger and those hands, the hands and fingers, are right within reach. Okay, so you can be real sensitive to the curves, the bumps outward, the dents inward, and now you can see a lot more lines here as another example. So your drawing period, as with most studios, is 3 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes. So this went into books as a class from 1 to 4. You don't have to draw from 1 to 4. You can do 9 to 12, 8 to 11, and set that as your drawing time. And spend at least 2.5 hours drawing. Okay, you know, you're going to improve the more that you draw. It's just like anything else. The more practice you put into it, the easier it becomes, the more natural it feels to you, and you'll see the improvement. It's not going to be in the first drawing. Okay? This is not Bob Ross teaching you how to paint in a half an hour and he ends up with a masterpiece. This is going to require practice, and you know, with these first drawings that you do, I don't have a problem if you use one side and then draw another drawing on the back side, and so on and so forth. But the more that you do, the better you do. It took me about 7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes to do this hand. So that'll give you an estimate as to how long one of these drawings should take. You can also set things up on the shelf and work from real things as well. Or like I said, you can work with printed images and put them close by to allow a closer observation. Okay, so let's get started, and the next project will come in another video. Thanks.